Hi there and welcome to the LIT Health and Wellbeing series. My name is Amy Maguire and I'm a lecturer in the Department of Sport, Leisure and Tourism. I'm also Performance Nutritionist for the Tipp Senior Footballers. 3 of my LIT colleagues and I are going to take you through the areas of nutrition, physical activity, healthy work practices and beauty. So because today is Monday, it's all about nutrition and we're kicking off our first episode with some really simple and effective breakfasts. So we're going to start off with some overnight oats. Now, overnight oats are a really efficient, balanced, healthy breakfast that you can make ahead of time, and they'll store for about 3 days in the fridge. So you can make a couple of batches all at once and they will get your week off to a really healthy start. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a layer of oats in each of our pots. So this is, I suppose, the foundation of every overnight oats. So we have our oat layer, and then from there you can decide what flavors you want to add, whether you want a high protein overnight oats, whether you want a kind of a dessert based overnight oats. You can mix up your fruit, you can mix up your nuts, you can mix up your seeds. So we're going to keep it kind of nice and simple today. So after our oat layer, we're going to pop in a yogurt. So I tend to go for high protein yogurts myself because I do find, particularly at breakfast, that the Irish population don't really get in enough protein. So we tend to have a lot in the evening, but we are not great at having it throughout the day. So adding a high protein yogurt to your overnight oats is a really clever way just to make sure you're hitting that protein target from the beginning of your day. So this flavor is vanilla. So I'm going to pop maybe half of the tub in. You don't have to add too much. So you really just want a nice creamy consistency in your yogurt. And again, we're going to add that to the second pot as well. And then depending on what fruit we want, we'll kind of create a different type of breakfast that is, as I said, can all be done at the one time. Nice and simple. Okay, so the next one I have then is a peach and passion fruit one. Just again for a little bit of a different taste. And you can pair up, as I said, whatever fruit, whatever nuts and seeds that you want. Okay, so once you have your yogurt in, you can then add your seeds. So I like to add full whole chia seeds to my overnight oats. Because at the minute that you add a liquid, so I'm just going to add just water today, but the minute that you add a liquid, what will happen is the overnight oats will thicken, and it's due to the fibre content of the chia seeds. And then what that will do is it will help you to stay fuller for longer. So you might actually get, you have this maybe at 8 or 9 in the morning, and then because of the high fibre content, you're going to stay nice and full and satisfied up until at least 11 or 12 o'clock. So we're just going to add a small spoon of seeds into each of our overnight oats. Okay, now if you don't have chia seeds, don't worry. Even linseed, flaxseed, sesame seeds, anything like that are absolutely perfect. So the seeds add fibre, but they're also going to add some healthy fats in there as well. And then comes your fruit layer. So the berries are really versatile, and they add a nice moistness to it. They add a little bit of sweetness. So we're going to add in some raspberries with our vanilla. So you don't have to add too much. Now you can also add frozen berries as well. So you don't have to be going out, and raspberries in particular have a very short expiry date, I suppose. So you kind of might find yourself that you might purchase them today and in 2 days time they're growing a mold on them. Whereas, if you find that you just manage with the frozen ones a little bit better, that's absolutely fine. So we're going to add some blueberries to our passion fruit yogurt. Again, just a little handful. And of course you can mix and match them if you want as well. Now, if you want to be a little bit adventurous, maybe you want to treat yourself on a Friday, you could add a little bit of cocoa powder to your overnight oats, and it'll just give it that nice chocolatey taste. So just a little spoon of your cocoa. So we'll just pop it into one of the raspberry and vanilla ones here. So that's going to give it a kind of a chocolate, vanilla, raspberry kind of flavour. And that's pretty much it in terms of ingredients. Now you can of course add some chopped nuts, you could add some shredded coconut, any variety that you want. What's really nice as well, if you grated up some apple and maybe added some cinnamon, that kind of gives it that kind of wintry, warm feeling as well. So just to give it a little bit of moist consistency, we're just going to add a little bit of water. Now this can be hot or cold. And what that will do is it will be soaked up by the chia seeds, give it that thick consistency, and we're just going to give it a little stir. So we're just going to give it a nice little stir here, and if you're finding it still a little bit too dry, you can just add in a little bit more water. And you can add milk, you can add, you know, even if you wanted to keep it, you could add your soy yogurt if you wanted to keep it vegan or vegetarian. So you just give it a little mix. And once that's done, all you simply do is make sure that you have an airtight container. So it doesn't have to be one of these jars. It can simply be a lunchbox. And the lunch boxes with the clip sides are quite handy because they won't let the air get in. And you can store it in your fridge then for up to 3 days. Okay, so that's our overnight oats. So next up, we are going to do some breakfast scones. Again, kind of grab and go breakfast. Now you don't have to have them for your breakfast. They're really nice to have at 11 o'clock with maybe a coffee or a cup of tea. But they've 3 basic ingredients, and we're just going to add a couple more just to add, I suppose, a little bit more nutrients to it. But the main ingredients that we're going to use are oats, yogurt, and some baking powder. So they're the foundation of it, and we can kind of mix and match then depending on what suits. So we're going to start off and we're going to get a 500ml tub of yogurt. So again, I've gone for a Skyr brand simply because it's slightly higher in protein. You could go for a Greek brand either, or just any kind of yogurt is fine, but if you're just trying to start the new year off with a bang, it might be a good idea to get that protein content up as well. So all we're going to do is we're going to topple the yogurt into a nice sized mixing bowl. So we're just going to pour it all in, and then we're going to make sure we keep that tub. Okay, so you're going to see why in a second. Okay, so we're going to get it all out as much as we can. Into our mixing bowl. So from there, one kind of, I suppose, pro tip that I would advise is, if you're adding baking powder or baking soda to something, try and add it to the most liquid part as opposed to adding it to a dry ingredient, because if you add it to a dry ingredient, it doesn't tend to kind of blend or kind of make its way through the product as much. So for this, we're going to just use some baking powder, and we're going to use 2 teaspoons. So 2 level teaspoons, popping it in. Kind of try your best to spread it around the mix as much as you can so that it penetrates through it as best as possible. Okay, and the same thing again. And that's great. So once we have our baking powder in, we're just going to take our spoon again and we're going to give it a nice mix just to get that baking powder all the way through, and this is going to help our scones to rise a little bit. Okay, so once that's all mixed through and there's no, residue of the baking powder left, you are good to add your oats. So the reason that we kept our tub is because we're going to use this as a measurement for our oats. So what we're simply going to do is we're going to take our oats and we're going to fill the tub twice. So once we have it filled, we're going to add it, and we'll mix in the first tub of oats. So oats are a really, really nice ingredient to include as much as possible. They're low in fat, they're high in fibre. So we're going to add our second tub now. So the same thing, same process. So again, we've filled our tub with our oats and we're going to add it to our mixing bowl once again. And we're going to mix it through. Now, if you find some yogurts are a little bit thicker than others, so because of that, sometimes you might find that the mix is a little bit dry. And if it is, don't worry, just add a little bit of water or a little bit of milk, and it will just help you to create that smooth consistency where there's no, I suppose, excess dry ingredients left over. Okay, so once it's all mixed through, you can then decide what additions you want to add, if you want to add anything at all. So the yogurt that I used was strawberry. Again, you can use a natural yogurt, you can use vanilla. It's completely up to yourself depending on what your preferences are. So we're going to add our raspberries. Again, just a couple, not too many. And some blueberries. Just to give it a little bit of sweetness. And we're just going to add a little bit of seeds here as well. So they don't have to be chia seeds. You can just add a little sprinkle. They can be linseeds, nuts, okay, again, whatever suits you. So once you've these guys added, you're going to try your best. Now the raspberries will mush, and that's absolutely fine, okay? In fact, you actually want them to. So you're going to blend it all in, give it a nice mix around. And as I said, try and kind of combine those raspberries in particular, because when you make the little scone shapes, if the raspberries are too large, the scones will fall apart. So, and don't be afraid to get right in underneath the mix, just to ensure you're mixing it all through. Okay, so nice, quick and easy. So the next thing then that we're going to do is we're going to preheat our oven to 180 degrees Celsius. And while that's preheating, then we can lay our scones out on a grease paper lined baking tray is what I would recommend, as opposed to tin foil. So tin foil, sometimes what can happen is if it's a moist kind of food, the tin foil can get stuck to it, and then you end up eating not only a breakfast scone but tin foil as well. So what you're going to do is you're just going to make some rounds. So about the kind of, I suppose, the palm size of your hand, these size balls. And you're going to place them down on your baking tray. Now they're not going to get much bigger, so you don't have to worry about kind of creating space on your tray. So you're just going to place them down like so. And you should get about 10 to 12 scones. The smaller the scones are, the quicker they'll cook. But again, it's up to yourself. They usually take between 20 and 30 minutes, depending on the oven that you're using. So we just make our... So these are really nice, as I said, paired with a cup of tea. You can, of course, have them with a little bit of jam. I don't know if I'd be advising the cream at this stage of the year, but you could have some Greek yogurt with them. And of course, if you wanted to keep them savoury, you could use plain yogurt, leave out the fruit, and you could add your seeds there as well if you wanted a more savoury as opposed to a sweet version of these guys. Okay, so I've made them slightly bigger, so we've got about nine scones here. So once you have them ready on your tray, you just pop them into the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes. You can, of course, egg wash them if you want, but you don't need to, okay? And the minute they get kind of golden brown, you can take them out, and that will make sure that the outside is kind of crispy or crusty and the inside stays nice and soft. So as you can see, they're a nice goldeny colour. We have our seeds, we have our berries in there as well, and you can add, like, pear is really, really nice. If you chop up a pear really small, it's really, really nice to add to these as well. So the last recipe that we're going to look at today is a really, really simple bread. So it's some porridge bread. So we're going to need our oats again. We're going to need a low-fat natural yogurt. So as opposed to fat-free, it doesn't tend to rise or to, I suppose, have the fluffiness as low-fat yogurt has. So maybe try your best to avoid the 0% fat yogurt if you want to attempt this recipe. So it's really, really similar to the breakfast scone recipe. So we're going to just start again by emptying our yogurt into our bowl. And again, we're going to keep that tub. So once the tub is empty, we're going to hold on to it for when we add our oats. Okay, so we have added it to our mixing bowl here. So So again, we're going to add 2 teaspoons, level teaspoons of our baking powder to our yogurt first. Spread it all around. And then the second one. Okay, like so, and we're just going to mix, mix, mix. So this isn't a high protein yogurt as such, so it's just a natural yogurt, but that's okay. Sometimes the higher protein yogurts with bread don't tend to work as well. Okay, so once we've that done, we're going to get our empty tub, we're going to get our oats, and we're going to start filling them up again. So again, we add our first tub. Just gently fold the oats in, so like so. So this yogurt is a little bit more liquid in consistency, so you're going to find that it's going to mix a lot better than those higher protein, thicker yogurts. Just fold it all in. And then we're going to fill up our tub a second time. Again, just fold them in nice and gently, just so that all of the oats are covered. So I'm going to leave it at just the oats and yogurt, but you can add some seeds. You can add some banana. If you want, you can add an egg in here as well. But just for simplicity's sake, we're going to stick with just the oats and the yogurt for today. So again, if you're finding that the consistency gets a little bit dry, you can add some water. And just make sure that the under layer of the oats is incorporated into your yogurt mix as well. So once it's all mixed up, again, preheat your oven to 180 degrees. And you're going to need to get yourself a loaf tin. So you're going to line your loaf tin with some grease-proof paper again for the same reasons that I mentioned with the breakfast scones. So tin foil can stick to the loaf, and as I said, you can actually end up taking off chunks of your bread while you're trying to remove that tin foil. Okay, so you can just add them section at a time. Sometimes the grease-proof paper can get a little bit kind of difficult to maneuver around, so just kind of add it layer by layer. And just smooth it, really, really press it into the bottom of the loaf tin. Once you have that bottom layer in, then you don't have to be too fussy about how you, I suppose, place the top layer. So that grease-proof paper will be really firmly in place now at this stage. So you can just spread it along. This particular amount will get you to cover about halfway up the loaf tin, but it will rise to be a lot bigger, about double this size. So just make sure in your oven that you give yourself enough shelf space to allow that bread to rise. So you're going to pop it into the oven, as I said, at 180 degrees for about 50 minutes. So keep an eye on it, and what you can do just to make sure that it's cooked all the way through is just insert a knife in through the center and pull it out. So if you find that there's some residue on the knife, it's probably not cooked properly. You might need to leave it in for another 5 or 10 minutes. So when you pull the knife out and it's a kind of a clean blade, so there's no oat residue on it, you have a fair idea then that it's cooked. Okay, so we're going to pop it into the oven, and this is roughly what it should look like. That's a wrap for today. All of these recipes will be on our social media platforms for you to go back and perfect at a time that suits you. Tomorrow at 1:05 p.m, Michael Fenley is going to take you through an at-home workout that you can exercise along to.